Hi friends, I'm Julia, and today I'm going to discuss part of the GMAT Verbal strategy that got me my perfect GMAT score. This video's focus is the language used in critical reasoning questions and how important each individual word can be. First, we'll discuss some common sets of words that have similar but slightly different meanings, and then I will illustrate with some inference mini examples so you can see how much those slight differences can matter when it comes to getting the correct answer. Here is our first set of words that you'll run into. Some means at least one and possibly all. Many means a large number, but not necessarily most. Most means more than 50%, and all, of course, means 100%. Let's illustrate this concept with an example. At a certain wedding, there were 3 entree choices: chicken, salmon, and vegetarian. Of the 100 people that RSVP'd, 70 selected chicken, 29 selected salmon, and 1 selected vegetarian. Everyone who RSVP'd ended up attending the wedding. An answer choice that said some people selected chicken, many people selected chicken, or most people selected chicken as their entree would be fully supported. An answer choice that said some people selected salmon or many people selected salmon as their entree would be fully supported. An answer choice that said some people selected the vegetarian entree option would also be fully supported. And an answer choice that said some of the people, most of the people, or all of the people who RSVP'd were able to attend the wedding would be supported, because some is at least one and possibly all. Most is more than 50%, 100% attended, and all is 100%, which is how many attended. So any of those would be fully supported. How about most people selected salmon as their entree? 29 out of 100 is not more than 50%, so that would be an answer that was out of proportion. An answer that said a few people, several people, or many people selected the vegetarian entree option would also be out of proportion, because a few is usually 2 or 3, more than one. Several is typically more than a few, though not necessarily many or most. It is more than one, and many would be more than one. So those two are not fully supported. How about good, better, and best, and bad, worse, and worst? These sets of words allow us to compare the relative quality of people, things, skills, times, or anything else. Let's look at an example. Hansel and Gretel both play the violin in their school orchestra. Gretel is not as skilled at the violin as Hansel. So if the answer choice was Hansel is better at the violin than Gretel, that is fully supported because we know their relative relationship. If the answer choice was Hansel is the best violin player in the orchestra, that isn't supported, as there could be additional violin players that haven't been mentioned, so be very careful with that. We can only answer as far as the relative relationship we're given information on. Next, let's look at the difference between not guaranteed and unlikely. If something is guaranteed, that means that there is a 100% chance that it will occur. So if something is not guaranteed, that means that there is a less than 100% chance that it will occur. Whereas if something is unlikely, that means that there is a less than 50% chance of it occurring. Let's look at an example. The incumbent mayor's campaign was shaken by the revelation of evidence showing that she had accepted bribes during her first term. In light of the scandal, her re-election is not guaranteed. If the answer choice was the mayor is unlikely to be re-elected, then that is out of proportion to our prompt. She could have been 100% likely to be reelected before the scandal, and those chances got knocked down to 85%, in which case her victory isn't unlikely because it's more than 50%, only less likely than before, only not guaranteed. The last word set we're going to look at is sufficient versus necessary. So sufficient means enough, and necessary means required. Let's look at an example. At a local pizza shop, the rent on the building has been increasing steadily over the last 5 years. After looking at the numbers, the owner decided that a 5% increase in prices across all products would be sufficient to cover this higher expense. If the answer was a 5% increase in prices is necessary to cover the increased rental expense, that would be out of proportion to the passage because the passage says sufficient, which means that the shop can definitely cover the new rent price with a 5% increase. And perhaps they could cover it with a 4% or a 3% increase. This choice says that it would take the full 5% to cover the new rent, which is an overstatement, and so it is not supported. There's one more little thing that we're going to look at with proportionate responses, though it isn't a word set. Be aware of the timeline and tenses used in the prompt and in the answer choices. For instance, Daniel doesn't like to let his sister Alana drive when they go out together. She is not a good driver because she gets a lot of citations and has never owned a car she hasn't eventually wrecked. If the answer choice was, eventually Alana will wreck every car she owns, you must notice that Daniel's opinion is based on the past, on past events with Alana, but this answer choice is a projection in the future, so it is out of proportion to the stimulus. Past behavior does not necessarily predict future behavior to this degree. Since inferences have to be fully supported by the passage, it's one of the clearest ways to show the difference between a correct answer and an answer that's a little bit out of proportion to the passage. But noticing the exact words used can help us in several different question styles that we run into on the GMAT Verbal. I hope that this discussion of proportional answers helps you identify traps on the exam with more ease. Good luck on your studies, and I will see you next time.